Greetings and welcome. We are in 303 and we turn now back to Mr. Conrad's Unstoppable Volume, Lesson 35, Chapter 35 on page 118. Let's begin in our journals for just a moment with a couple of focus observations. First of all, I want to give you this vocab word, alacrity. Alacrity. A-L-A-C-R-T-Y. Alacrity, which means cheerful promptness. Okay? Success is often associated with showing up on time and showing up and staying. All right, that's a good focus topic. We'll be writing about that. Sometimes students will ask, dude, what is this deal with schools constantly harping on tardiness issues and attendance issues and absence issues? Well, of course, one of the answers is you learn a lot in the work world about what it means to show up on time and to show up and stay there focused and ready to go to work. For example, if you work at the Big Mac and you don't show up on time, you ain't got no job at the Big Mac. See how that works? The idea is we try and teach this early on. Now we've got a word picture here in lesson 35 of Mr. Conrad's, which is kind of a fun story. Let's take a look at it. I'm on page again 118. The minute that scrawny little freshman walked into the weight room, I knew what he was going to do. I watched as he and his friend put weights on the bar of the bench press. The scrawny freshman got into position to lift the weight as his friend spotted him. This was the moment of truth. After bragging and betting his friend about how much weight he could bench press, the time had come to prove it. I observed this scenario 1,000 times. The scrawny little freshman lifted the weight up off the bench rack with help from his spotter. Down went the weight as he lowered it to his chest. He pushed the weight back up, but only halfway before running out of gas. As the weight came back down, he asked his spotter for help. The spotter refused. Only after the scrawny freshman cried, "Uncle," did the spotter assist in helping him put the weight back up on the rack. The poor little scrawny freshman lost his bet. His friend razzed him as they left the weight room. I chuckled to myself because I'd seen it so many times before. Kids come and go from the weight room, never to return. Amazingly, the next day, the scrawny little freshman returned, this time without his friend. Even more amazingly, he kept coming back every day after school for 4 years. Unbelievable. I've made this observation before for your journals. Let's say it. There's the difference between will, I want to do something, desire, and sustained will. I want to do it day after day after day after day. The mark of success in life, of course this is true of students, is not will. Everyone in the first week of a new semester or the first week of a new quarter says, this is it, I'm really going to do it. Everyone says that, right? All athletes know about, I'm going to start working out. It's a famous mantra. The question isn't will, the question is sustained will, coming back day after day after day. Let's keep reading. During those 4 years, I got to know that scrawny little freshman really well. His name was Kevin Ryder. What I didn't know then was that I was about to witness this little pup metamorphosing into a big dog. On the day that big dog came out of his doghouse for good, he did so in front of a stadium full of fans in the biggest game of his life. Kevin took my class his senior year, not so much to learn woodworking, but to hear the lessons on the Friday stories. One of Kevin's favorite was the story of Babe Ruth, a story as legendary as Babe himself. It was the final game of the World Series, the 5th inning. He says the 9th inning. It was tough for the baseball fans in the house. You probably know this. This was actually Game 3 of the World Series. By the way, Mr. Conrad got a little bit wrong, of course. This is Game 3 of the World Series, October the 1st, 1932. And it actually happens, of course, at Wrigley Field against the Cubs. Sorry for the Cubby fans in the house. But the story, of course, is an amazing story. Let's tell it. Yankees are losing. And up to the plate steps Babe Ruth. After a couple of swings at the bat, Babe backed away from the plate, pointed his bat at the center field wall. He was telling all of the fans that it was, of course, not Yankee Stadium, it was Wrigley Field. The opposing team's pitcher and the little kid in the hospital, that was where the ball was going. Most importantly, Babe was telling it to himself. He was thinking home run, not strikeout. The crack of the bat was matched only by the roar of the crowd as Babe sent the ball over the center field wall. When Babe crossed home plate, he was mobbed and disappeared in a sea of humanity. A reporter later congratulated him and asked, "What if you would have struck out?" Babe replied, "The thought never even crossed my mind." Babe wasn't worrying about striking out. He was focused on hitting a home run. Kevin loved that story because he was a baseball player. That's why I lifted weights after school every day. During his final home game of his senior year, Kevin would put his strength to the biggest test of his life. He and his teammates were playing for the league championship that Saturday. The Monday before the big game, Kevin wore a "No Fear" t-shirt to class. On the front of it were two huge, mean-looking dogs. They had spiked collars and gnarled teeth. The back of the shirt read, "It's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog. No fear." Immediately after seeing the shirt, I began teasing Kevin in front of the class. I said, "Hey, Mr. Big Dog, ruff, ruff. I'm just a little pup, yip, yip. But if I were a big dog like you, ruff, ruff, I'd take a bite out of that team you're playing Saturday for the championship, ruff, ruff." Kevin laughed along with the rest of the class each time I barked. "Since I'm just a little pup, yip, yip, I could never do something like that," I said. More laughter came from the class. "I challenge you to be a big dog on Saturday and do the Babe Ruth thing and hit a home run, ruff, ruff. On top of that, I'm inviting your entire class to come and see your home run on Saturday, ruff, ruff." Oh, Mr. Big Dog tucked his tail between his legs and sat down, although he was laughing. He didn't say a word. That Saturday, I attended my first high school baseball game ever. I was seated on the third baseline behind home plate. It was a cool but sunny day. You could smell the fresh-cut grass of the infield. This game was for the district championship, and Kevin Ryder's team, the Bulldogs, were playing against the Palisade Bulldogs. The game was billed as being a dogfight. I thought about Kevin's No Fear shirt. It's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog. Kevin's Bulldogs were down 3-1 in the bottom of the third inning, and they were at bat. There were 2 men on base with Kevin on deck. The batter at the plate was walked, and then the bases were loaded. Kevin stepped up to the plate as the crowd screamed. I offered my support and encouragement for him by barking at him. Yes, that's right. I was barking. I was barking to remind Kevin to be a big dog. Several fans made the comment, "Oh, that's the woodshop teacher. He's kind of crazy." The first pitch came in, a swing, a miss, strike one. The second pitch, a curveball, another swing, strike two. Sensing my boy was in trouble, I started barking louder. Ruff, ruff, ruff. Those same people that thought I was crazy started moving away from me. With 2 strikes on him, bases loaded, and me barking like an idiot, Kevin stepped back up to the plate after strike 2. I can no longer recall what happened next. Kevin fought off the pitcher by hitting some fouls. The pitcher threw a couple of balls. Then with the count 3-2, the bat cracked like lightning with a thunderous roar. I watched and will never forget as Kevin sent the ball over the left field wall, home run, grand slam home run. The stands were hopping, going nuts. The ball went clear out of the ballpark and rolled across the highway in front of some cars. Kevin's teammates ran out of the dugout. I stood on my feet barking and yelling like a child. Kevin made sure his foot touched each bag as he rounded the bases. After he tagged third base and was headed home, he pointed to me in the stands as if to say, "That, little pup, is what a big dog can do." Still on my feet, barking with hands in the air, I gave Kevin a one-man wave, bowing down as he tagged home. Kevin was mobbed by his teammates, and after our Bulldogs took the lead 5-3, Palisade never scored again. Kevin's team won their first league championship in almost 10 years. That next Monday, back in the classroom, I congratulated Kevin in front of the entire class. I asked, "Did you hear me barking?" Kevin laughed. "Yes, I heard you barking." What was going through your mind at that moment? I wanted to know. What were you thinking with 2 strikes on you, the bases loaded, the game on the line, and me barking like a fool? I asked. Kevin answered, "I was just thinking, hit the ball." Just like old Babe Ruth, he took his team to victory. One of Kevin's classmates asked, "How did you know Kevin would hit a home run?" I replied, "That was easy. That home run was destined to be hit the day that scrawny little freshman came to the weight room and stayed." The lesson Kevin taught us was, don't quit. Of course, your comment on page 122 is for the times in your life when you have to be a dog, be a big dog. That's to say unstoppable. Let's list a couple of keys here in our journals really quickly. Notice, 1, the key to success is not will, as we said before. Everyone wants to succeed. The key, of course, is sustained will, right? Lifting every day, for example, for 4 years to hit the home run. The observation that Mr. Conrad makes is an important one, not just to athletes. Not just to athletes. I have juniors every year and seniors. who point out, if only I had really taken seriously my math classes in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, I would have had a higher ACT score. A higher ACT score would have meant more money for me going to college. All those years ago when I was sitting in middle school and I wasn't learning the mathematics that I should have learned. This is the point, right? Sustained will. Keep going. Think about this question. I think it's a good one. Write it down in your journals. What is the one area in your life where sustained will is still missing? Can you pick out one where you have said in the past, maybe repeatedly, I'm going to do X, I'm going to do X, I'm going to do X, and looking back you have to admit you never actually got X done. And the reason why you never got X done is because a lack of sustained will. Is there one area in your life where you're willing to say on paper right now that is the case for you? Can you do better, in other words? Finally, notice how Mr. Conrad is going to tie this idea into the notion of being late, tardy, and absences. There are some students who have never really heard this before, and it kind of changes the way they think. When you show up late to everything, you are saying something about yourself. You are sending messages about yourself. And that message is usually not a healthy one, but a negative one, right? So it makes sense to maybe ask this question. Why not show up on time or even before time? Do you grow up in a house maybe with a person that said on time is late, right? In other words, show up early. And then when you show up early, you're ready to go to work. Again, back to our key word, alacrity, cheerful promptness. Don't just show up on time. Show up with a good attitude, ready to go to work. Well, there you go. Lesson number 35. Big dog. Thank you.